And my dog this month is a science fiction movie called At the Earth's Core. Doug McClure plays the hero who rides a gigantic steam-powered screw right into the center of the Earth, where everyone keeps walking past the same trees, rocks, and monsters all the time. The trees look like papier-mâché, the monsters look like Saturday morning cartoons, and Doug McClure looks like he'd rather be in the land that time forgot, or maybe he was, I forget.
Roger, my dog of the month will probably qualify as the Wolfhound of the Winter. It's a Korean-made King Kong rip-off movie called Ape. It's done in 3D, and that means, like in every 3D movie, the audience gets a lot of junk thrown in its lap. Bricks, flaming arrows, billiard cues. The whole picture is a crude attempt to rip off a remake. You know, Roger, if they come up with a picture called Son of Ape, then we'd probably have the first sequel that's a rip-off of a remake, and that would sum up a lot of the filmmaking in 1976.
My dog this month is The Devil Within Her, a rip-off of The Exorcist. It's a British movie about a nightclub dancer who has a curse laid on her, and 9 months later, wouldn't you know, she gives birth to the spawn of the devil. The kid must have been a sound effects man in a previous incarnation because he makes noises like squad car sirens and stones banging around in empty garbage cans. He's also good at murdering everybody in the family, even the family doctor, who was played by Donald Pleasance as if he wanted to be somewhere else, and for that matter, Gene, so did I.
Roger, I don't have any bone to pick or bury with your dog, but for my dog of the month, I think I'll have to go downtown to the United Artists Theater where a rotten documentary called Manson is playing. It's about Charlie Manson and his band of violent followers. The picture was in Chicago about 18 months ago, but it's been brought back now just to capitalize on all the publicity attendant with the Squeaky Fromm trial out in California. It's a horrible, horrible picture. Girls this time, who pushes her sister out of a fourth-floor window. Now that's after she strangles another sister in a playpen, drowns her older brother in a pond, and pushes another brother out of a hayloft. With a kid like that who needs child abuse, this is a totally ridiculous film that the parents hang on to the kid after the killing starts. Totally preposterous.
If not suicidal.
Yeah.
My dog this week is a gruesome, bloody, and particularly stupid disaster of a film called Silent Scream. It's about a young college co-ed who moves into a suspicious boarding house on a cliff overlooking the sea and immediately finds herself surrounded by a wave of violence. Is the house haunted, or does it perhaps contain secret rooms, hidden staircases, scandalous revelations from the past, hidden identities? This is one of those movies in which all of the above are true. And before it's over, we've seen some nasty scenes involving knifings, stranglings, gougings, and other substitutes for intelligent suspense. The ads say the movie stars Avery Schreiber, but you have to look fast to find him. He's in the movie so briefly, it's almost like he was trying to escape along with the audience. My dog this week is named Sphinx, and it's still another one of those dumb mummy movies with characters creeping through tombs and disturbing the bones of the pharaohs. Leslie Ann Down stars in Sphinx as an archaeologist who discovers that King Tut's tomb was actually just a blind alley, a distraction from even greater, more unbelievable secrets. She stumbles over corpses, she gets attacked by bats, she gets locked in with mummies, and she falls in love with Frank Langella, more or less in that order. You know you're in trouble in a mummy movie when the archaeologist's flashlight keeps going out. If she carried extra batteries, Sphinx would have been exposed as just another one of Hollywood's pyramid schemes.
Ooh, okay. My dog this week is an inept romantic comedy called Cheaper to Keep Her, with private investigator Mac Davis romancing his tough-as-nails boss, Tova Feldsha. Eventually he gets her drunk, and that's the message of the movie, fellas. Is your woman too independent? Get her drunk. She'll come across. That's a terrible message for any film, and it isn't made any more palatable by the film's knee-in-the-groin humor. Also, by the way, the title Cheaper to Keep Her has absolutely nothing to do with this movie. Economics are hardly the issue here. My dog this week is The Immortal Bachelor, a 1973 Italian sex farce, only now being released in this country. I guess the statute of limitations on good taste ran out. This is a terrible film starring Monica Vitti as a woman accused of trying to murder her husband, played by Giancarlo Giannini. The movie is told in a series of flashbacks as Vitti recounts the events that lead up to the attempted murder. Well, there's lots of screaming and yelling in the picture, that standard kind of Italian movie, screaming and yelling. This movie's a mess. It tries to bait us with a suspenseful ending, but we can figure it out in the first 10 minutes. In short, The Immortal Bachelor is a movie you can safely live without.
I wish I had lived without it, Gene, but unfortunately I saw it too. But my dog this week, it is awful, right? My dog is a slimy example of the cinema of the grotesque called Mother's Day. It's about a crazy old woman who lives in a garbage-filled shack in the wilderness with her animalistic sons, and the boys spend their nights pouncing on female campers and dragging them back home to Mom, where we get gruesome scenes of torture and perversion. Why do people make movies like this? Why do people go to see them? I don't know. Mother's Day is a reprehensible exercise in depravity, and it stinks. Okay, Gene, my dog this week is a wet blanket named Slithis. Got that great title, Slithis. You don't know if you're saying it or swallowing it. It's about this strange creature that grows up in the water near a nuclear waste dump, and then it crawls up onto the land to devour its innocent victims. You'd think they'd see it coming. It looks like Bigfoot, and it's wearing the cruddiest costume of the year, a slimy shag rug with seaweed and oatmeal stuck all over it. Send this monster to the cleaners. All during this movie, people are going, no, stop, anything but that. The only problem is the people aren't in the movie, they're in the audience.
Well, Roger, my dog this week is a 4-year-old film named The Devil's Reign that's suddenly come back to a lot of theaters advertised as starring John Travolta. That's a complete lie. The Devil's Reign stars Ernest Borgnine as a devil's helper trying to hang on to some lost souls. Travolta is on screen for less than a minute. This was his first film. He had only one line of dialogue in it. Most of the time he has red and green wax melting all over his face. It looks like he fell asleep on a pizza. There he is right at the end. Now, of course, the reason why Travolta is being advertised as starring in this ridiculous drivel is that right now he's the hottest actor in Hollywood. So beware of films you've never heard of promising big stars. One reason you never heard of them? They're lousy. Well, Roger, you and Spot may not believe this, but I have just seen my first nudie karate film.
You're kidding.
No, I guess you'd call that genre chop sexy. The film is The Bod Squad. 5 nubile Western girls are sold into slavery in Asia, where they are bought and sexually abused by some Oriental bad guys. Wearing Fredericks of Osaka costumes, these women get off their feet in strange ways for sex objects. Their specialty, violent massage to the brain as they bump and grind their way to freedom. Most laughable is that one of the girls falls in love with a nice Oriental guy named Ho-Ho, a regular ding-dong, and a great moment in movie history comes when this girl says with a straight face to her boyfriend, "I love you, Ho-Ho."
Well, ho, gee, maybe she's in love with the Jolly Green Giant. Anyway, my dog this week has a great set of canines. It's Count Dracula and his vampire bride. The vampire is played by Christopher Lee, and he has great taste in necks. He could drain the Bod Squad in 20 minutes. This guy has come back from the dead so often he ought to rent his grave by the month. Anyway, after a little coy necking with his bride-to-be, he puts her on a sacrificial altar in a phony ceremony that looks like a cut-rate 4th of July. Hollywood has a lot of new vampire movies coming out in the works, and I believe me that they got to be all uphill from here. I'd like to kick off the new season with the dog of the week that really deserves a kick. It's a movie that's turning up around the country under the title of Satan's Playthings. The ads make it look like an action picture about 3 tough broads, but the entire campaign is a complete fraud. There is no new movie named Satan's Playthings, and none of these women are in it. This movie is actually a 10-year-old British thriller that was originally released under the title Assault. It stars Susie Kendall as a British schoolteacher, and it's about how her students are attacked and killed by a cult of devil worshippers. This is a great new trick, taking movies that were dogs in the first place under their original titles, then ripping us off again under new titles.
My dog this week is an old-fashioned Western called The Mountain Men. It's amazing these days to find a new movie that's so unashamedly racist about the American Indian. In this film, Brian Keith and Charlton Heston play a couple of fur trappers who fight the Indians in 1830 Colorado. An Indian squaw falls in love with Heston even after he smashes her in the face with his rifle butt. An old Indian wise man is portrayed as a lecher who lusts for young girls, and an Indian warrior takes down his pants in battle before he's shot in the butt. The Mountain Men is a boring, long-winded, racist film. Other than that, it's awful.
My dog this week starts out the new season with one of the very worst, most inept, most technically idiotic movies I've ever seen. It's called Hollywood High Part 2. This is about teenagers who spend most of their day goofing off at school or playing ball on the beach. A lot of this movie doesn't even have dialogue. The soundtrack consists of recycled teenage surf party hits stolen from the bottom 40. Every once in a while, a kid will say, "Hey, gang, let's cruise down Hollywood Boulevard." And then what do we get? We get Chamber of Commerce footage of all the bright lights of Hollywood Boulevard, but you can't see any of the characters of the movie anywhere. Hollywood High Part 2. Remember the name? Beware the film.
That's too bad. I like the title. My dog this week is Chu Chu and the Philly Flash. A big budget picture. It's a self-indulgent comedy starring Carol Burnett and Alan Arkin as a couple of San Francisco drifters who stumble across a suitcase containing government secrets. Burnett plays a Carmen Miranda-style entertainer. Arkin is a street hobo known as the Philly Flash. Why? Because he was once a star baseball player, we're supposed to believe, with the Philadelphia Phillies. All there is to the film is a series of mindless car chases and Burnett and Arkin mugging for the camera. I didn't laugh once in this film. In fact, it was genuine agony to have to sit through it.
My sympathy, Gene. My dog this week is called The Cauldron of Death. It's an Italian import. It's very badly dubbed into English, and
Something tells me this is not exactly a new movie. It's been retitled, I think. What clues do I have? Well, when the movie's title flashes on the screen, it's in a different print style than the rest of the credits. That's always an ominous sign. The movie stars Chris Mitchum as the son of a mafia chieftain trying to avenge his father's death by sneaking into the fortress of another Italian godfather and killing him. He outwits 6 or 8 tough guys, and in one of the movie's most ridiculous scenes, he has the mafia hitmen chasing him in 3-piece suits. They're climbing up cliffs, jumping out of trees on top of one another.
Sounds like it was inspired by The Godfather, which would make it about 8 or 9 years old.
I'll bet you're right.
Okay, my dog this week is a hot and bothersome skin flick called 11, an attempt to outdo, of course, the Bo Derek hit 10. Although the film has a couple of cute lines of dialogue, the majority of the film is predictable, hardcore, bump and grind sex, and the only erotic moments come at the very end when our 32-year-old male hero finds his 11 dream girl and they make love to the tune of the 1812 Overture. Before that, we have to suffer through a lot of very gross scenes, including a couple of people making love in a coffin. So I guess I have to say that 11 is worth maybe 3, maybe 4.
That good, huh?
Roger, my dog is called Dogs. That's right, Dogs, a would-be thriller about a bunch of California canines who go berserk one day and start attacking people. Now, you'd never do that, would you, Spot? No, and thank goodness. Dog features all kinds of mongrels jumping around and biting people. Why does the town in this movie become a mailman's nightmare? I'd like to tell you, but the movie never explains it. It's just something in the air, something to do with a nearby power plant. Well, you like to see flesh chewed off humans? Well, maybe you need a rabies shot more than you need to see Dogs. By the way, Dogs is a 2-year-old movie being brought back to some cities now with a huge TV ad campaign. So be on the lookout. Don't let the ads for Dogs put the bite on you.
Put the bite on you,
You
not
got it.
badging. Okay, well, my dog this week is in the spirit of the season. I'm going to have the turkey of the week, and its name is Message from Space, an imported Japanese space opera inspired by Star Wars. Now, it's all about how people from another planet threaten to take over the universe, and how the good guys fight back in spaceships after being summoned to battle by, now you got to get this, radioactive nuggets that glow in the dark. Now look at these trashy special effects. Model airplanes heading for a poached egg. But then what do you expect from a movie where the characters jump out of the way just before a nuclear bomb hits, then they pull out their swords for a real fight? This movie is a message from space, all right, and the message is send this movie to Mars.
Well, what have you got against the Martians? You know?
My dog this week is a very strange horror film named Fear No Evil. Scenes have been pieced together at a garage sale of leftover scenes from other horror movies. It begins with a duel to the death between Lucifer and a brave priest, and then it switches to hijinks in the hallway of a local high school. Now, the film also includes a teenage girl who is the reincarnation of a tortured monk,
What?
a greaser in a red convertible, and a male English teacher is having an affair with a cute little hall monitor. The climactic scene is a showdown between Lucifer and a magical cross that zaps out ray beams just like in The Watcher in the Woods. Now, this movie may seem to make absolutely no sense, but it sure got a lot of slick stuff in it.
Okay, well, my dog this week is a violent shocker called Ms. 45. That's Ms. MS 45. The story of a supposedly liberated young woman who is outraged after being raped, so she goes on the offensive and begins blasting a variety of creeps who are after her body. Standing and shooting like Clint Eastwood, this delicate young woman, easy Sparky, comes across as sort of a Dirty Harriet. This film does have some curiosity value, offering a woman as a killer, and the soundtrack is pretty good too. But the film turns out to be a dog, because once the shooting starts, it never stops. And Ms. 45 turns out to be just another movie bloodbath full of slow-motion killing.